Alright everybody, time for part 2 of the time cards. First with Illumination Wisp. Clearly not a constructed card, just too underpowered for constructed. But in limited this is pretty great. The primal version without endurance already was a great 2-top, so I'm even more happy to put this into my time draft and sealed decks, thanks to the added endurance and Wisp being a relevant unit type potentially. Next we have Last Rites, so basically the eternal answer to Rampant Growth, except that we also need to sacrifice a unit to play a sigil of our choice from our deck depleted. So this is not very good in the end, unfortunately. It is a fast spell, so that's nice. That's kind of like the minor upside we get for also having to sacrifice a unit. But you basically need a 1-drop that you played on turn 1, and it also needs to be one that you can just throw away without losing too much, which is unlikely. Otherwise you basically just get a bad Secret Pages, which is what this usually will be, unfortunately. But yeah, there might be like some corner case deck that pops up that can support this with, like, I don't know, turn 1 Granite and Drone or turn 1 Slumbering Stone or something. But I don't see a deck like this happening right now. And in limited this is even worse. Next we have Learned Herbalist, the time version of the summon, discard a card to get a spell cycle. This one is a 2/2. When you play a spell you gain 1 health, so that's neat. And if you discard a card you create and draw a Secret Pages, which is not the most universally good spell you could get. So not too excited about this one. Worse than the fire one, I would say. But yeah, maybe some deck has use for it, but I remain skeptical. It might actually be better than, say, in some decks it might be better than actual Secret Pages, but there's not even that many decks that want actual Secret Pages. In limited this is pretty solid, since a 2/2 for 2 that also gains you some health occasionally is a decent 2-drop, at least as a filler if you need 2-drops, and the Secret Pages might be randomly more useful there sometimes. Next we have Living Example. Unfortunately I think this is slightly too weak for constructed in the end, but it might not be, since effectively it's kind of like Warcry that you don't need to attack for, but that only affects your units. So this is similarly good as a 2/1 Warcry for 2 would be. The problem right now is that time went from like no 2-drops to 2 that are better than this, with the Armadillo and the Teacher of Humility, making this just fall short. Also the fact that it has only 1 health is a problem during combat and also against cards like Varus Favor. So yeah, this card is just a little below the line to make it into constructed, especially with other cards competing for the slot, but it's pretty good. And in limited this is a premium 2-drop. Pick this up as you see it. One of the best time commons in the set probably. It's a really strong card. Next we have Living Offering, the time version of the pay 1 deck to gain an effect cycle. As usual, 2 power 2/2, and for sacrificing here we get a silence on an enemy unit, which is pretty weak, since silence is usually not worth the investment of a card, so you're not trading 1 for 1 when you sack this. So this is the worst, or one of the worst, of the cycle. So don't see this making it into constructed. In limited it's fine. I mean, a 2 power 2/2 is okay, and the silence can save your butt in a pinch, so it's a decent card to have in your draft deck for sure. Next we have Sandglass Parma. This is kind of a weird and interesting card. So we get a 2 power +0/+3 that ramps us by +1 maximum power. With Spellcraft 3 we also get to play a teleport, but you really want to get this down on turn 2 if you can, if you have a 1-drop, so that you actually get value out of the acceleration, or the latest on turn 3 on like your 2-drop, and then you basically have a good blocker that also accelerates you from, say, 3 to 5, or from 2 to 4 even, if you have a 1-drop. So in constructed I don't see this making it into any deck, but in limited this could be a decent card to consider. Next we have Teacher of Humility, one of the best cards in the set. Not much to say here. This card is just a powerhouse. It's the 2-drop that time has been waiting for the entire time, and it's just super powerful. The double time balances it a bit, but it's basically a 2-power 3/3 with a powerful infiltrate that can beat control decks on its own almost, and no drawback. So yeah, this is just a premium card in any format really. Next we have Amaran Singer. Really cool artwork, but not that cool of a card. We've had that with Fire before. There's a fair share of cards that look really cool, but are not very good. So the nice artwork makes up for the bad card. Here once again, we get a 3-power 2/4 recharge, and you get to put 3 Scorpion Traps into the top 20 cards of the enemy deck. And then if the opponent draws them, they have Destiny, and the trap automatically goes to the enemy void, and the enemy player plays a 1/1. And the enemy player of the guy that drew the trap, which is in this case us, plays a 1/1 Deadly Scorpion. So basically, yeah, the opponent has 3 Scorpions in their top 20 cards that, if they draw them, pop up on your side. And they get a replacement draw from the Destiny. Not a very exciting card, and a 3-power 2/4 is not a very exciting body even with charge. So yeah, quite a bad card in Constructed. In Limited is pretty decent, since the 3-power 2/4 with charge is pretty decent, and the Infiltrate is just a nice bonus that can randomly help, but is not necessary to make the card playable. Next we have Arcanum Hourglass. 3-power relic. At the start of your turn, play a random power from your void. That card is about as bad or worse than Forgotten Find, so forget that we found it. Arcanum Hourglass, better stay arcane in both formats. Next we have Auralian Merchant. +1 maximum power, and on summon you get to use the market. So kind of body-wise, this is technically the best or one of the best merchants, also because some of the decks that have the time and interest in the like dirtly utility of the market are in time. My problem mainly is that time provides one of the weaker and worse market options compared to some of the other colors, since time just doesn't have that many great sideboard style bullet options in my opinion. So I'm not like sure how good the merchant is relative to the others, even though everyone is hyping it up because the body is really nice, like the unit itself. But yeah, I remain skeptical and just not too excited about a lot of the time market options compared to some of the other colors. But yeah, it's definitely one of the better merchants for sure. Deathstrike, unplayable in Constructed and even fairly bad in Limited, since costing 3 times as much as Predatory's Instincts just to gain Warp is a hell of a lot, and Instincts wasn't the greatest Limited card to begin with. So yeah, I can see maybe putting one of these into your deck as a filler if you have a bunch of big units and need some ways to deal with opposing stuff. And at least it can be free, but all in all, it is not a very good card. Next we have Gravetender, also clearly not a constructed card, but in Limited I can see this being pretty decent, since a conditional 3-power 3/3 flying is really powerful. So if you're reasonably good at forcing trades and putting this out with Tribute, it's a really good Limited common potentially. Whoop. Alright, that's it for the second part of the time cards. And yeah, we have 2 more parts to go to get through all the new time cards. So stay tuned for the third part of the time review in a moment.